Thank you very much, Archibald. Really, it's a great honor for me to have this opportunity to address this audience at the Public Relations Associations. Let me start saying that I think that the relationship between the US and Chile are living its finest hours, and for very good and sound reasons, because we share the most important thing, which is our principles and values. We share our commitment to democracy, human rights. We share our commitment to freedom, to open, competitive economy, innovation, entrepreneurship, sustainable growth, and care for the environment. And I think these are very sound and solid grounds to start this new century that we are living on. Because the only constant that we are living now is change. And that's something which was not the case always. Remember that all of us were born in the 20th century, which was a very short one, because it didn't start in 1900, but it started in 1914 when Europe went dramatically from the Belle Epoque and the Charleston to the First World War, the war of the 20 million dead. And then we had the October Revolution in Russia, and that was the beginning of the main characteristic of our 20th century, which is gone. And it was a century full of contradictions. We were able to achieve the bottom of the ocean and to get to the moon, but at the same time, we were able to produce the most devastating social experiments like communism and Nazism. And now we are living in a new world. And I think that given that change is the only constant, it's very good to have clear and a strong commitment with our values and our principles. And let me tell you the story of my country, a small country in the southern part of the world. And I will start by saying that during a long period of time, 12 years, we went through what we could be called fat cows. This was a period between 1986 and 1997. During this period, Chile was among the fastest growing countries in the world, with an average rate of growth of almost 8% per year. We were able to increase productivity, to strengthen our fiscal and monetary equilibrium, to create jobs like never before, and at the same time to lower our unemployment rate to almost full employment. During this period of time, we were able to recover our democracy in a very wise, because it was a peaceful and very wise recovery of our democratic system, which is the normal way of life of the Chilean people. During that time, the world was not growing fast. Actually, as you can see in this PowerPoint, we were more than doubling the rate of growth of the world in that same period, 12-year periods. And unfortunately, with the Asian crisis, things changed, and we lost our momentum, we lost our strength. As you can see, we had to live through 12 years of lean cows between 1998 and 2009. During that period, the rate of growth went down to half, only 3.4%. Productivity was fully stagnated. Our creation of new jobs was less than half of what we had been able to do in the previous period. The unemployment rate went up, and you know the story. During that same period, the world started to speed up. And therefore, Chile, that was able to double the rate of growth of the world, was only able to equal that rate of growth in this second period. And that was the scenario that we had to face this year when we had to run to have a presidential elections. Let me tell you merely what are our goals. As you can see in this picture, that while the world was accelerating, we were losing momentum, losing force. I remember once I heard Margaret Thatcher saying that, let's make Britain great again. And that was something which I think is very much in the heart of our project for the new Chile that we are trying to build together. Our goals are very simple. We want to become the first Latin American country within this decade to be able to defeat poverty and to defeat underdevelopment. It's a very ambitious goal, but let me tell you, it's absolutely a feasible one. And for that, we need to recover our capacity to grow. You can see here what is happening with our growth rate during the last 4 democratic presidents that we have had in Chile. You see there President Elwin, President Frey, President Lagos, President Bachelet, and we want to get back to our strong and sustainable growth. Our goal is to grow at 6% per year during the next 4 years. And we have achieved that goal this year, 2010. Last year, our rate of growth was minus 1.5%. This year will be very close to 6%. Last year, we lost 30,000 jobs. This year, we will create 300,000 jobs. Last year, our investment went down by 20%. This year will go up by 28, 30%. Last year, our exports were stagnated. This year, they will recover its potential growth. And therefore, we are already achieving results, which is very important if you want to accumulate forces to keep going in our main goal, which is to defeat poverty and defeat underdevelopment. We must recover our growing capacity, and we must come back to what was once called the Chilean miracle. Because some people that used to talk about the Chilean miracle in the first period used to also to talk about the Chilean nap in the second period. And we want to go back to the Chilean miracle. And for that, it's very important that we have to realize what are the grounds in which we have to base our future development. First of all, to have a very stable and strong democratic system. And we had a transition that was really a very wise one, a very smart one. Normally, transitions take place in the middle of economic crisis, political riots, and social unrest. That was not the case of Chile. And therefore, in order to continue, we need to start the second transition. The first transition was from a military government to a democratic government. And we did that, and we did it well. The second transition is to go from an underdeveloped country to a developed country, a country with 2.5 million people living in poverty, almost 15% of our population. By the way, I was really surprised when I heard that in the United States you have more than 40 million people living in poverty, which is it's almost the same poverty rate as in Chile, even though we have very different level of per capita income. And therefore, our second transition is from an underdeveloped to a developed country, a country with poverty, to a country free of poverty. And for that, of course, we need to do many things different. We need to achieve this goal, we need a well-done job, to work with a sense of urgency, because we don't have time to waste. And at the same time, we have been able to set goals and deadlines in order to be judged by results and not only good intentions. Our government program is looking forward to a society of opportunities, where everybody will have the chance to take advantage of their talents, if they commit themselves, if they do their best. At the same time, we want to build a society of security, which means that everybody will have a base, a floor guarantee. No matter what happens, we don't want anybody in our country living in poverty after the end of this decade. And the third aspect is a society of values. The value of life, the value of human rights, the value of environment, the value of stability is something that we think are key, and we will base our future development in these three axes: opportunities, security, and values. Our goals as governments, as I will tell you before, first of all, is recovering our growth rate. And for that, we need to improve dramatically the quality of our educational system. And we're working on that. And we're already getting our first results. We have spent a lot of money in our educational system. Actually, we have multiplied by 6 the public expenditure in our educational system without getting results in terms of quality. We will double our investment in education within the next 8 years. But this time, we will look and we will really work in order to obtain results in terms of quality. We have committed ourselves to create 1 million jobs within the next 4 years. This year, we'll be able to create 300,000 jobs, the fastest and strongest job creation in the history of our country. We are working to increase our level of investment. Actually, this year it will go up almost by 30%, and we want to recover an investment rate with respect to our GNP of 30%, which was what we had in this in the first period I mentioned, and it went down from 30 to 22%. We need, of course, to promote entrepreneurship and innovation, which are key in this new world that we're living in, the society of knowledge, the society of information. It's not only having political stability and free market economy and equality of opportunities. We also need to invest a lot in science and technology and to promote innovation and entrepreneurship, which is something which will make the difference between success and failure. And also we need to improve the flexibility of our economy. Since the world is changing and so rapidly, you need to be very flexible in order to be able to adapt and take advantage of all the opportunities that the world is putting in front of our face. Recovering our growth capacity. You can see there what has been the trend of our growth capacity, and this year, as you can see there, we are recovering our growth capacity, and once again, we are growing much faster than the world, which wasn't the case during this lean cows period that you can see there when the red line is above the blue line. And our target is to become one of among the top 10% fastest growing countries in the world. Probably by now we are the second fastest growing country in Latin America. We hope that next year we will recover our first position. And we are also in the first place within the OECD world. And for that, recovering our growth capacity has been something that many people thought it was not possible. You can see there the comparison between expectation in terms of growth and real economic growth. And you can see that starting on March 1910, we have surprised experts and all the academics that were predicting lower rates than what we have been achieving. And we are also very careful with other equilibrium, like fiscal equilibrium, and also take care of inflation. The inflation rate last month was negative in Chile. And therefore, what we're doing basically is to have a very strong commitment with the creation of jobs, because we think that's the most powerful tool we have, not only for development, but also to defeat poverty and create more equality of opportunities. And we are doing, and I don't want to bother you with all the details, but many things has to be done in order to be able to grow at 6 or 7% per year, which is our goal. We are also at the same time observing that real salaries are going up by 2.1% in the first 4 months of our government. During that same period of time, we were able to create 165,000 jobs. More than 60% of those jobs have gone to women, which have a very low participation in the labor force, and we want to correct that. At the same time, we are working in other issues like public order and safety, because crime and drugs are very terrible and very strong and very cruel enemies. And for that, we are putting together a plan that is working in prevention before people get involved in crime. Protection, we're increasing our public forces in terms of order and security. To justice, modernizing our justice system, and also rehabilitation, giving a second opportunity to everybody that commits its first crime. And that opportunity, I think, will be able to save many, many lives that otherwise would go the wrong way. You can see here some figures that what we are getting in terms of crime and drugs. Basically, victimization rate, the people that have really suffered from crime is going down, fear rate is going down, and drug law violation arrest is going up substantially. We are also undertaking a huge reform of our health system. This is a paradox, because we have life expectancy and mortality rates equivalent to the US, but people are not satisfied with the quality of the health services that they are receiving. And therefore, we're putting together a huge reform that is not only involved with more resources, but also with better management of our health system, both private and public. I know that in the US you are spending almost 15% of your GNP in health, and still you're not satisfied, which means that money is necessary, but it's not enough. And we're putting together a system where public and public sector will compete And I don't care who will provide the service. The important thing, who is able to provide the best service in terms of quality and dignity to people. And that's something which is very necessary, because without competition, it's very difficult to achieve high standards of efficiency. Also, we are undertaking a huge education reform. First of all, we are doubling public investment in education. In Chile, we have a system where we subsidize students, and they choose where to go with the subsidy. Either they can go to a public school or to a private school. We don't care who is providing the school services. The important thing is to respect their ability to choose and to be guaranteed that wherever they are choosing their education service, they will get the quality they need. And we're doing many other things, but to save time, I would just go over these issues. Also, we are creating a network of excellence public school. We are creating 25 of those this year, and we will continue in order to give real and equal opportunity to people all over the country to be able to get the best possible high school education. And also, we are improving and increasing the number of people attending higher education, university. Actually, today, 7 out of 10 people in the higher education is the first time in their family that they can achieve that goal, which means that there's a tremendous social mobility, which is being reinforced by this revolution in education. On top of that, we have a very ambitious goal to defeat extreme poverty within the next 4 years, which is our government, and to defeat poverty within this decade. And we are moving along. We were very successful in terms of poverty. We were able to reduce poverty from 40% in the 90s to 13.7 in 2006. And unfortunately, in the last 3 years, we suffered a strong setback, and poverty went up again during the last 3 years of my predecessor, even though social expenditure, public social expenditure went up very substantially, because I think that besides what happened with the international economy and the price of food, I think that we lost our focus in our social programs in order to be able to get to the people that really deserve and need that help, and not allow deviation to other users. And therefore, we have set up a very ambitious goal, which is to be able to finish with extreme poverty within the next 4 years. And I hope that we are going to achieve good results in the first measurement that we will take by the end of this year. On top of that, we are promoting a very strong modernization of our democratic system, basically increasing the level of participation, transparency in the democratic system. We have presented a law to Congress which will allow automatic registration and voluntary balloting, and give right to Chileans living abroad to vote in our presidential elections. That will increase by more than 50% the people that will participate in our democracy. And we are also taking a lot of other measures in order to have a more vital, young, and more effective democratic system in our country. And this was our government program. But on top of that, we had to face one of the 5th worst earthquakes in the known history of mankind, which happens the early morning of February the 27th. And it was really a devastating one. It was an earthquake that hit the heart of Chile, where 75% of the population lived. And it was really devastating in many, many respects. First of all, as you can see here, 2 of the worst 5 earthquakes in the history of mankind took place in Chile. The last one was on February 27th, a few days before we took office. And that was a tremendous blow, because we were prepared to run the country in normal conditions, and we had to face this huge challenge, which was a big one. It had really worldwide effects. Actually, we lost 7 meters of our land because of the earthquake. But on top of that, let me show you some pictures. This was Juan Fernandez, which is Robinson Crusoe Island, before the earthquake and after the earthquake. This was Constitución, a city in the southern part of Chile before the earthquake and after the earthquake. This was a bridge in one of our main routes before the earthquake and after the earthquake. And these are just examples, because the toll of the earthquake was really devastating. We lost more than 521 lives, and there still are 56 people missing. Almost 2 million people were directly affected by the earthquake. At the beginning, we have a generalized shortage of basic utility. 4.2 million people were without electric power and water supply when we took power. 1,250,000 students, 1 out of 3, could not go back to school because their school had been severely damaged or simply destroyed. We lost almost 1/3 of our hospitals because of the earthquake, 79 hospitals. And 370,000 homes, 1 out of 10, was severely damaged or fully destroyed. And we could continue. Thousands of micro, small, and medium business were simply devastated. We lost, at the same time, thousands of miles of roads. More than 211 bridges went down or were destroyed or severely damaged. And at the same time, dozens of ports, airports were paralyzed. That was a picture that we had to face when we took office on March 11th, 12 days after the earthquake. This is more or less the estimate of damages of that earthquake. Basically, to summarize, $30 billion is the total cost of the earthquake for the Chilean economy, which is 17% of our GNP. Just to give you an example, Katrina was less than 1/10 of 1% of US GNP in terms of destruction. So really the proportions are so dramatically different that you have to realize that this challenge was a huge one. We started to put up not only a program to comply and honor our commitments, but also to reconstruct the country, and we put together a plan, a reconstruction plan, which implied $8.5 billion in terms of public expenditure. And we are funding that with fiscal austerity, with donations that we have received from the private sector. We have used, in a very moderate way, fiscal savings that had been accumulated. By the way, Chile is not a net debtor to the world. Our public debt is negative, which means that we are creditors to the world. We are also using, in a very moderate and responsible ways, debt, public debt, selling disposable assets. We did some tax adjustment, and basically with that, we are financing our reconstruction package, which is $8.5 billion, which is about 20% of our annual public expenditures. And we are facing a triple challenge. First, to face the emergency of the earthquake, which was huge. Second, to rebuild everything that was destroyed by the earthquake and tsunamis that hit our coasts during that day. And third, to fulfill our government and accomplish our goals. I was telling you that growth is very important. If we keep growing at 3%, which is more than what was the average of last government, it will take us until 2028 to become a developed country. Chile is a country with 14,000 per capita income, and we want to achieve 22,000, which is more or less the level that countries like Portugal or Greece have now in the southern part of Europe. If we are able to double our growth rate from 3 to 6%, which we are already accomplishing, we will be able to achieve that goal in 2018, which is basically something which is in the near future, around the corner. And for that, we will require a lot of things, not only good and sound economic policy, but also a united country with real commitment with these goals, and use the power of our unknown heroes that emerged during this earthquake. We also had to face these tragic accidents with our miners. We still have 33 miners which are caught more than 2,000 feet below the earth. And from the very first moment, the government decided that we will going to take full responsibility for the rescue. And we committed ourselves when nobody knew whether they were alive or dead. For the first 18 days, nobody knew that. It was 18 days after the accident that we had our first chance to contact them, and we realized that they were alive. And I keep with me at all time this message, which was the first message that they put in the drill that was able to open the shaft. And it says, all of us, the 33, are fine in the shelter. That was the first news. And you cannot imagine what happened that day. I was at the mine that day. And it was an explosion of joy and emotion all over the country, and I think in many other parts of the world. I was there, and I remember when the video camera went down 2,000 feet, and we were able to see their faces for the first time. They were happy like kids. But they were united, they were fighting for their lives, they were strong, and they really has given us a very good example, and I hope that spirit. And we have just celebrated last week our bicentennial, 200 years of independence. And the miners have really been inspiring for the whole country. The whole country is committed with this rescue effort, which we have called it Prophet Jonas, because Jonas was eaten by a whale and rescued from the bowel of the whale. And we will rescue our miners from the bowel of the mountain, 2,000 feet down the mountain in a very, very hard rock, so it's very difficult to penetrate. I'm looking forward for the day when we will be able to rescue them. And I think it will be much sooner than what people think. We are hoping that will happen sooner than what people are expecting. And their families are waiting for them, and the whole country is waiting for them. And I think it will be a very good start for these tremendous challenges that we are undertaking as a country. And in this, we have had a very full and unconditional commitment from the part of the government. From the very first day, we realized that the company was not able to lead that rescue effort. And we took the responsibility. Many people told me, don't do that, because probably they are dead, and you will take all the blame. I said, I don't care. We will do our best. And we knock all the doors and look for all the technology and machinery necessary to have a successful rescue effort. And I'm sure, I have the confidence that we will achieve that sooner than what you think. I would like to end these words restating our two big challenges, to defeat poverty and to defeat underdevelopment. And for that, we need to recover the wasted time. We lost 12 years in terms of taking full advantage of our potential as a country. And not only we need to recover the wasted time, we also need to run faster and boost towards development, because it's not an easy task. And that's why I think that we should be inspired by Usain Bolt and run as fast as him. And also be able to jump as high as the beautiful Elena Isambayeva. Thank you very much.